detox challenge. It's going to be 14 days, so it's not really going to be overwhelming. But most people are dealing with this problem. Most people. If that sounds like you, then this call is going to be awesome. We've got Meghann Hempel, who is a specialist in sugar and food addiction issues, that's going to share some tips and guidance and tell some of her story about sugar addiction and how it impacted her in her life and what she does now to help us with this journey. As you're sitting there looking at it, you've probably heard me talk a little bit about it. If you've been a part of my coaching and my online presence and our videos, that when we are dealing with issues with sugar, it is something that leads to inflammation. It leads to so many of the chronic diseases because in our bodies, when we consume sugar, our bodies increase insulin levels. And when those insulin levels increase to such a point that the cells no longer receives the sugar, we become insulin resistant. That could happen 10 to 15 years before any of your blood work ever shows up. So without wasting any of your time or mine, I'm always looking forward to hearing from Meghann. This is going to be a credible call. If you've got questions, please don't hesitate to ask them. Put them in the comments down below. Our contact information is available. You'll see some QR codes and some ways to get in touch with us as the video goes along, as we have this interview. So without further ado, I'm going to switch over to Meghann. Give me just a second here as I jump over to this broadcast and we switch things up just a little bit.
Me on. Hello, everyone. My name is Meghann Hempel. I am the owner of Brain, Body, and Beyond. I am a food addiction and weight loss specialist. Before we get into the food addiction discussion and all of the tools and the strategies on how to navigate through that, I feel like it's very important that you get to know a little bit about myself and kind of why I do what I do. So my health journey really stems back all the way from age 9. I was a very obsessive compulsive child. I had chronic anxiety and depression, and my parents thought they were doing the best thing for me by putting me into therapy. And we went through so many different therapies, and I just was not getting better. So they put me on medication at a very young age because they didn't know any better. And so through my childhood, I grew up kind of like a zombie. The medications made me feel very kind of numb. I grew up in a fog. I didn't have any confidence. I never felt smart enough. I never felt good enough. You know, school was always very difficult for me. And so I grew up just very, insecure. And honestly, food was kind of a coping mechanism for me. And I had this undying appetite, and no amount of food was never enough. So throughout, school, I was kind of bullied. I was friends with everybody, but there was a lot of fat girl jokes. And I just, I found the gym at 16, and that was kind of my outlet. And I thought, you know what, well, if I can't be smart enough, if I can't, offer anything to the world, maybe I can at least, be pretty. So really got into fitness, really started liking the results that I was seeing. And it was just, I became addicted to the gym, and I started, binging and purging and having these really disordered behaviors around food, but I didn't really know any better. I thought it was normal, right? And then fast forward to age 19, I got pregnant at a really young age. I was a baby, basically having a baby. And that was probably that 1 year of being pregnant. I did not have disorder. I was chronic overeating, but I wasn't binging and purging. But
Not sure what happened right there.
like having to take care of a baby and trying to survive, and my food addiction was out of control, my anxiety and depression was out of control, but I had to survive, and in order to survive I was nannying. And then Fast forward to age 24, I was kind of having a quarter life crisis. I was on these cocktail of medications. My food addiction is out of control. And I was just thinking to myself, well, what if these medications are actually, the problem? What if they're actually making, all of my issues worse? And so I thought, maybe I should get off of these medications. And so I found this book. It was called Anatomy of an Epidemic. And this book basically was all about what psych meds can do to you long term and what they can do to you as a child, and just the development of the brain. And my whole life started to make sense, and I was heartbroken and sad. And I decided to cold turkey off of these medications. Now, whoever is listening into this call, never, ever, ever cold turkey off of psych meds. It is terrible. I went through 5 years of psychiatric drug withdrawal. It was a nightmare. But during this time, and how painful it was, I knew that I had to rise. And I felt like Big Pharma had taken so much life from me, and I needed to make a mean comeback. And I was going to prove something to the world. And so getting off of these psych meds, I accomplished more than I ever had in my entire life. I pursued fitness. I pursued firefighting. I advanced emergency medical technician, all of these things. During this time, I still had to be a mother. I was going to school, and food, once again, was my coping mechanism. So fast forward, I finally am getting into a good place, mentally, like coming kind of out of the outs of psych med withdrawal. And I'm about to start this new career in the fire service. I'm excited. I'm feeling good. Life is about to, start. And I did get help for my food addiction recovery finally, because I knew that if I didn't get help. So when I say food addiction, I had been in the health space too for some time, and I was preaching, live this balanced lifestyle, everything in moderation. But behind closed doors, I was binging and purging, and I was a total fraud. And I knew that if I didn't get help, it was only a matter of time until insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes. Luckily for me, I was kind of a fitness addict, so I was always trying to run off my bad diet, but I knew it was only a matter of time until it caught up to me. So got coaching. It changed and saved my life for forever. I used to say to myself, if I ever, find a way to overcome this food addiction and bulimia, I'm going to make it my life's mission, to give back and, help others do the same, right? But I also had to pay the bills. So I got into the fire service. My food addiction is under control at this point. And 2 months into my career, I fell backwards out of the ambulance on an EMS call, landed on my head, went out, and thought I was okay, and I wasn't. And I had a traumatic brain injury. This traumatic brain injury took my entire career in the fire service. I'm 6 years out from that injury. I still have symptoms of post-concussion, but I'm alive and surviving. And that accident was honestly the biggest blessing. It was probably the best thing that ever happened to me. And I think there's always a trade-off in life. But that accident pushed me into my true purpose, which is what I do now, and that is coaching people literally around the world with food addiction. I launched my business out of my childhood bedroom when I was in recovery at my parents' house. So now I coach people around the world, doing what I love. Now, with that being said, I just want you to know that if you struggle with food and sugar addiction, or you're living in these sick cycles, there is so much hope. Now, you may be like, well, do I even struggle with food addiction? How do I know if I struggle with food addiction? We're going to go over a few things. So I'm going to ask you a list of questions, okay? There's 15 questions, and I'm going to actually have Trent drop a link in the comments at the end of this conversation. So if you want to review them, you're more than welcome to. But I'm going to ask you these questions. If you answer yes to maybe 5 or 6 of these questions, you might want to consider getting some more support if you've been living in these sick cycles for a long time and haven't been able to escape them on your own. So I'm going to ask you these questions, all right? So, number 1, do you often eat more than you intended or find it difficult to stop eating once you start? 2, have you tried to cut back on certain foods or eating habits, but find it impossible to do so? Do you frequently think about food, plan your meals around specific foods, or feel preoccupied with eating? Have you noticed that your eating habits interfere with your daily responsibilities, work, or social life? Do you eat in secret or feel ashamed about your eating habits? Have you experienced physical or emotional discomfort as a result of your eating habits, such as weight gain, digestive issues, or feelings of guilt? Do you continue to eat even when you feel full? Do you ever eat until you feel sick?
Mm.
Do you use food as a way to cope with stress, anxiety, or other emotional challenges? Have you ever noticed a pattern of eating larger quantities of food than you intended despite efforts to control portion sizes? Do you find yourself repeatedly setting goals to change your eating habits but struggling to follow through? Have you tried living that balanced lifestyle that so many people talk about but don't feel as though balance exists?
Yep. Yep.
Have you lived in the yo-yo diet culture for what seems to be forever?
Right.
Do you do really good with your diet for some time, and the second you consume something off plan, all hell breaks loose? So I always like to ask,
Yeah.
do you think you are a moderator or an abstainer? So a moderator is somebody who can have the cookie, they can have the piece of pizza, they can have one, they're done, they're good, they get on with their day. Now, an abstainer is probably somebody who one cookie turns into 10, and before you know it, they're eating the cereal, they're eating everything that's in the pantry, okay? Just like one is just it's never enough, okay? And so addiction is like dealing with 2 different people, okay? And we need to be able to identify who is speaking, okay? And this is one of my favorite exercises. I give this to all of my clients. What you need to understand is you are so in control. You are in control of your life more than you even know. And so we need to start rewriting our story. Okay. We get so stuck in our old narratives. We need to rewrite that. You are, I'm very big with what you think and say about yourself is what you become. So if you were saying, oh, well, I always do this and this is where I'm always going to be, you're right. You're absolutely right. You're going to stay there for forever. But what if you said, I don't do that anymore? I'm creating a new version of myself. I'm creating new healthy habits because I want to make myself better. I want to live a long life. I want to be around for my family. I want to be around for my grandchildren and so on. So food addiction is a whole different ballgame because food is everywhere, right? And we can't escape it. We still need food to survive, right? And so it's learning what works for us and not against us. So I give this exercise to my clients. Okay. So let's just say I'm going to use myself as an example. There's Megan. Megan wants to thrive. She wants to win. She wants to live her greatest life. Then you have Ed. Okay. Ed is that addictive brain. I call it Ed because ED stands for eating disorder. Food addiction is disordered eating. Okay. So I like to put a name to it. There's Megan and then there's Ed. Okay. Ed creeps in when you're doing really, really great and is like, just have the cookie. Just have one. You've been doing so good. Well, Megan needs to come back and needs to teach Ed how to feed the lies with the truth. Megan knows that one cookie is never enough, and that one cookie is going to turn into 10 or 20 or 30. Okay. So being able to identify your voice versus the voice of sabotage, Ed, whatever you want to call it, is the first strategy that I love to give my clients, okay? So identifying who's speaking. Now, what you need to realize with food addiction comes the 5 stages of grieving, which I'm sure you've heard before, okay? The 5 stages of grieving are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. And the first stage to getting better is acceptance. Food addiction is no different than any other addiction. Now, I know this sounds a little hardcore, but an alcoholic doesn't just say, I'm going to have one beer. A heroin addict doesn't say, oh, I'm just going to shoot up tonight and just, that's it and I'm done. Just a little bit. No, the same thing happens, is with a food addict, right? Like for me personally, I have been sugar-free for 6 years. I have not touched sugar for 6 years, and I don't touch sugar because I know I don't have control over it. I'll have one and all hell breaks loose. And I know that about myself. So I am an abstainer. I abstain from certain foods. Now, some people may be like, oh my gosh, that is total restriction. And we need to shift the narrative and the mindset there a little bit, because it's restrictive? Being a slave to food, being sick, having diabetes, having insulin resistance, having fatty liver, having all of these metabolic illnesses, right? Because if you are a true food addict, you know very well your eating is out of control. And if you do not get it together, it's only a matter of time until that catches up to you. So a couple of exercises that I want to give to you that you can start implementing tonight is, 1, determine who is speaking. Is it you that's talking, or is it your addictive brain talking?
This is awesome.
And then 2, I want you to write a list of your non-negotiables and your drug foods. Your drug foods need to become non-negotiables. So when that voice creeps in, it's like, oh, you've had a rough week. You need to be able to say, no, I don't eat those things anymore because they don't serve me, okay? So like a drug food for me, cookies, cakes, ice cream, those are my drug foods. Now, if you are a moderator and you can have those every now and then without not going into the deep end, that is amazing. But for some of us, moderation doesn't work. So if you are somebody who struggles with food addiction, write down that list of drug foods. I want you to write a list. Number 3 is I want you to write a list of your danger zones. So a danger zone is, when are you most vulnerable? Okay, so that could be holidays, vacations, celebrations, a long day of work, anything kind of emotional or stressful. Those could be a danger zone, okay? Now, when you know your danger zones, you can learn how to pre-plan and navigate. And so the 4th thing that I want you to write down is creating an emotional management toolbox. Now, I know that sounds a little silly, but it works wonders, because
it does.
You need a new coping mechanism, because you're abusing food right now. It's your outlet and it's your best friend, right? So what are some other ways that you can cope and navigate these scenarios without going off into the deep end? So an emotional management toolbox, it could look different for everybody. So it could be putting on a podcast, going for a walk, calling a friend, going to the gym, whatever it may be, a craft, anything to distract your mind, to get out of that place where you may want to binge and eat things that don't serve you any longer. Okay. And then low carb diet. Okay. I think a low carb diet, I'm not going to get too far into it, but a low carb diet, I think, is extremely helpful for everybody. I think everybody should be on a low carb diet. Now, a low carb diet is typically 150 grams of carbohydrates or below. And I'm talking about whole food carbohydrates, staying away from processed foods. All of those foods that are in a box that you think are healthy, 9 times out of 10, they are garbage. So another tool is sticking with a low carb diet. Now, I think there is something to be said with regulating your blood sugar and insulin. If you are constantly eating a high carb diet, your blood sugar is like this all the time. Okay. We want it nice and like steady. Okay. And you can do that with a low carb diet. With a low carb diet, when we're regulating our blood sugar and insulin, there's a lot less food noise and a lot less cravings. Okay. So using a low carb diet as a tool, And then also using your words wisely. I know that sounds silly, but your words are so powerful. If you stay in a mindset of like pity and victim and oh, I'm never going to get to where I want to go, you won't. You've got to be your biggest hype girl, your biggest hype man. Like you got to just get after and say, I can do this, and immerse yourself in personal development and positivity. It is going to change your life. And the last tool I'm going to give you is the Unicity Feel Great system. I love this system. And honestly, I am new to this system. I was really drawn to this system. I also have an autoimmune issue. And when I found out that this could naturally upregulate GLP-1, I was very excited. I the GLP-1 injections are just not an option to me. I do have clients on them. I have friends on them. But for me personally, I just don't want to go down that path. But I do know that GLP-1 has a bunch of anti-inflammatory effects. This system also helps naturally regulate glutathione, which is also an anti-inflammatory. And that's why I was really drawn to it. It's helped me so much with my energy and inflammation. But I'm also always looking for other tools for my clients who still struggle with cravings and food noise. I struggle with food noise and cravings anymore. I've been sugar-free for about 6 years now, but I still have clients that do, right? So I'm all about finding tools that work. I have quite a few of clients right now that are on the Feel Great system, and it's helping them fast a lot longer. They have less food noise. They're feeling fuller a lot quicker. So I think this is an amazing. I actually had a woman who's literally been on it a week paired with a low carb diet, and her doctor has already told her to cut her metformin in half. Like, beautiful things are happening. So I know that was fairly quick. I hope I was able to give you some tools and tricks. If you want to reach out to me, if you have any questions, please send me a message. Always happy to talk.
That was a lot. That was a lot in a very short period of time. So making sure, I think I'm unmuted. So thank y'all for being here. Now, she brought up a number of great things, and I hope that this is going to be saved here on our page, which as we start the sugar detox this next week, this is some great information. Tyler Dietz. Tyler, what are you talking about? You're not a moderator. So I don't know I have no idea what you're talking about, dude. This would be, you're on Healthy Together. AK, I think you may be on the wrong page, but hey, so we're going to be starting the sugar detox. If you haven't paid attention to that, I want to encourage you to do that. We're going to be starting on February 1. We're going to be doing some coaching with that. If you haven't subscribed, there is our contact information as well. If you're interested in the Feel Great system that she talked about, that's a huge part of what we do as coaches and health coaches. And Megan just did an incredible job. We'll probably actually, if you missed this, you want to join me again tomorrow. I got a feeling that we're going to probably do this call a good yet. No, you're not a moderator, Tyler. But I appreciate the sentiment. I don't know you. So no, you're not a moderator. I've not made anybody a moderator, so that would be the case. But I appreciate your intent there. And I'm not sure who you're wanting to delete, but it wouldn't be me. So since I'm the host and I run the site. So hey, thank y'all so much for being here. And this is really all about healthy together and feeling great. You are not. Let's see. We're gonna make sure you are blocked. I don't like doing that, but there we go. I don't want people in here coming along and doing stuff like that. So anyway, so the Feel Great system, if you're interested, it's a very simple system and protocol, something that we do. But what I want to invite you to do is be a part of our sugar detox challenge. Everything that Meghann was talking about, if you are interested in the Feel Great system, I'm going to be doing a presentation on that here in just a minute. So make sure that you subscribe to the channel, and do that. We've got a number of videos as we get ready for the sugar detox coming up next week. But the Feel Great system is a great way to do that. That's one of the things that we do. It is a very simple protocol that's in the provider's digital reference. My wife, Dr. G, is one that uses this, and she talks about this all the time. So thank y'all so much for being here. Do you have any questions before we jump off and start again? Does anybody have any questions in regards to the Feel Great system, maybe the sugar detox challenge that's coming up? Let me know. That's going to be coming up February 1. We've got finishing up the kind of the cheat sheet on how to do that and guide people through it. It's one of those things that even as a health coach, this stuff creeps back in. I love Meghann talking about the fact that on her journey with this, she's realized that there's an addiction there for her. So if y'all missed that are coming in, we had Meghann, Coach Meghann on here, who is a food and sugar addict specialist that was talking about food addiction and sugar addiction and how to help with that. And that she has been sugar-free for 6 years, and understanding how food can take over. And I saw that in my own family. My late wife struggled with eating addiction. And that has been a part of my family. So I share that because it's hard. It's hard to watch. But there's a lot that you learn from it. I wish I had known about the Feel Great system. I wish I had been more attentive to the issues around food and sugar. The one thing that if there's something that I would encourage you to start to think about, number one, is to go back and watch this video. But I think one of the best things to think about when you feel those cravings, HALT. And that stands for hungry. Why are you eating? Is it because you're hungry? Is it because you're angry? Is it because you're lonely? Or is it because you're tired? To begin to look at and become mindful about how you're eating and how you look at yourself. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. And I want you to hear that today. And you do not have to be controlled by anything. You get to have control of your life. So thank y'all so much for being here. If you haven't subscribed, please make sure that you do that so you can stay up to date. I'm going to get off here for a second, and then I'm going to be going right back here live again, switching things up a little bit. This is our morning coaching time where we really get to learn from experts in this field of metabolic health. So Meghann, thank you so much for being here. Y'all make sure, again, thank y'all for coming in, and make sure you subscribe to the channel as we get ready for the sugar detox coming up. If you are needing that support, this is going to be a great time. So any questions? I see there's a number of folks that just jumped on. Just wanted to give you that opportunity. Like I said, make sure you subscribe as well. As we're going to jump off here in a second. I got a couple things to do, but I'll be jumping right back on again. So thank y'all so much for being here. Go get the day, make it golden. Go be excellent to one another, and go be excellent to yourself. All right, we'll see you back around on